AEW and WWE meets for the first time because Chris Jericho will appear on Stone Cold Steve Austin's Broken Skull sessions. Yes, Chris Jericho will appear on WWE Network or Peeing Cox.
What?
How is this even happening? Is Vince McMahon actually allowing this?
What?
Steve Austin actually complained about the hearing problems for a very long time now, and I think it's getting worse.
I can still hear pretty damn good. I mean, not really.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
What?
So we'll talk about Broken Skull sessions, Christian's first AEW match, The Hurt Business, and WrestleMania. Welcome back to the channel.
Good morning, everybody.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
My family, Drew McIntyre.
Farming is gambling.
Why would I watch the show?
A little bit of the bubbly.
I'd much rather be at home.
Welcome to your favorite wrestling show of all time, Greatness of Wrestling. So before anyone says, damn, we got an intro, I've missed the intro so much. Sometimes I still get these comments, and the thing is, it was never gone, like ever. The thing is, this show is called Greatness of Wrestling. That's why it has a Greatness of Wrestling intro. Other shows don't have an intro because they don't have an intro they never had. So maybe, hopefully I've cleared things up. Thank you very much. So the first thing I want to talk about is Chris Jericho appearing on the Broken Skull sessions on April 11th, which is a very big deal. So basically, on April 1st, April Fools, we got a countdown. It had Stone Cold Steve Austin graphics, it looked similar to Chris Jericho's debut graphics, and it had the identical Chris Jericho countdown sound effect. You know, this one, which is, yes, Chris Jericho's music basically back in the day. April Fools, people said, obviously. You know, WWE just messing around. It's gonna be someone else, someone who possibly had a countdown as well. But it was actually revealed to be Chris Jericho. WWE's Twitter page, WWE Network's Twitter page, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Chris Jericho himself, well, they confirmed it's happening. And as you can see, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Chris Jericho are sitting next to each other, about to talk some wrestling. Kicking open the forbidden door. Austin vs. Jericho, April 11 on Peacock TV, Broken Skull Sessions, Steve Austin, All Elite Wrestling, WWE. It's the first time we are actually going to see kind of a, not necessarily, but still a WWE and AEW collaboration. You might be wondering who's allowing this. Are WWE and AEW working together? Well, sort of, but not necessarily. So basically, here's what happened. In an interview with Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated, Austin explained that Jericho contacted him following his Broken Skull sessions with The Undertaker to tell him how much he enjoyed it. Jericho expressed interest in doing the show, and Austin reached out to WWE Chairman Vince McMahon to ask permission. According to Steve Austin, Vince replied, "It's cool. Go ahead." It was text, so hearing problems is not an issue right here. Barrasso added that Jericho received permission from AEW President Tony Khan to do the show as well, which makes sense considering it could help AEW get some additional exposure. I don't know about that. Yes, I get it. Tony Khan could say, no, you're not doing the show, but I also don't really think that they're gonna talk about AEW. Maybe they will. We've seen AJ Styles talking about TNA, and nowadays they just talk about TNA as if it's not even an issue, which it isn't. I get it. I just don't see Chris Jericho really talking about AEW, and even if he will, I believe most of the stuff would get edited out. But then again, I don't really know how Vince McMahon feels about the whole situation. Sometimes I get this feeling that Vince McMahon actually likes the competition, likes the nostalgia, and maybe, just maybe, he's allowing Chris Jericho to be on the WWE Network. Well, first of all, to promote it, you know, basically new exposure, Peacocks, go ahead, Chris Jericho, you know, that kind of shit. I understand that. Maybe he's also showing that he doesn't give a single fuck about AEW. He acts like he's not treating it as competition. Just a theory. It's a big deal, you know, Chris Jericho is AEW's top star, and are we possibly seeing a start of a potential relationship? Are we seeing more of this in the future? It actually opens a lot of doors because this is just the beginning. So one of the biggest issues with the WWE or the wrestling business, if someone leaves for the other company, you can no longer use that superstar basically anywhere, on covers, video games, or whatever. This collab basically tells me that a lot more stuff is possible now. For example, big deals like Hall of Fame. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if people who are currently in AEW, people like Sting, who's already in the Hall of Fame, but let's say he's not. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE would have Sting in the Hall of Fame and he would have his speech, not talk about AEW, and that's basically it. So things like Hall of Fame or being in the WWE Network interview, that should be possible now. It shouldn't be treated as this big deal. And also stuff like video games, which is a bit more tricky, I understand, but especially Legends or early versions of Chris Jericho, I wish it was possible to have these people in video games, because at the end of the day they're part of a WWE history, and when they leave, the game lacks something. It lacks a bunch of old-timers and new guys sometimes. I understand that Revival are not gonna be in WWE 2K20, but Christian, Jericho, we'll see how WWE and AEW are gonna treat this. Wrestling Observer asked about Jericho's announced appearance on Austin's pod. Triple H says Vince always says they are open for business and that it's not shocking surprising to him at all. Come on, that's reaching a bit. It is surprising. Knowing Vince, WWE, how strict they are, it is surprising. So we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully they're gonna mention AEW at least once and talk about what he's doing right now and whether he's enjoying it or not. But mostly it's gonna touch WWE career of Chris Jericho. So we'll see what happens. I want to talk about the Hurt Business. So, on the recent episode of Monday Night Raw, WWE decided to split up the Hurt Business when MVP and Bobby Lashley got angry at Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander for losing the match against Drew McIntyre, causing them to be banned from ringside at WrestleMania. So they basically started brawling, and later we saw Bobby Lashley versus Shelton Benjamin. The Hurt Business is no more, which is a bummer, makes no sense whatsoever. They just got very successful, all of them were champions at one point, and it seems like nobody actually likes that decision. Everyone complained. I believe even Batista said it's a shitty decision. So that really sucks, we all know that. And according to Fightful Select, a lot of talent backstage also believed this was a horrible idea, but Vince McMahon still went with it. Most importantly, they also say that both Bobby Lashley and MVP personally lobbied for Vince not to go through with the breakup. So everyone knew it's a shitty idea, but WWE still decided to do it. Now obviously there are a lot of possibilities, one of the biggest ones being new members, people like Keith Lee or anyone basically joining the Hurt Business, and it would be just fine. But to me, the Hurt Business is these four individuals. I want to see the same faction, and I would feel sorry for Cedric and Shelton, So, in my opinion, yes, it sucks, but it's not too late to put the group back together. You see Bobby Lashley being attacked, and they just come and help, and the Hurt Business is back. It's wrestling, it's not that big of a deal. So I believe it's still possible to put that faction back together, and after WrestleMania, that's exactly what they should do. Christian had his first match in AEW against Frankie Kazarian, and the man didn't lose a step. What a great match. Pretty long, you couldn't tell that he didn't wrestle for like 7 years. Christian is just the best, man. In this match he came out on top, and he's trying to get his W's, to get to the AEW World Championship, which makes sense. Now I don't really watch AEW still. I'll watch the pay-per-views and I'll watch the highlights of what I want to see, what I care about. But like I've said, the show is just not for me. If you like it, if you enjoy it, great. Lovely. Maybe I will in the future as well. Currently, not really into it, but probably once the fans will return, the full crowd, maybe then we'll see. And to end this video, let's talk about WrestleMania. The card looks okay, but it really doesn't feel special, and I'm sure most of you guys feel the same way. And I'm trying to be excited, but the biggest appeal to me of this year's WrestleMania is the return of an audience. And that shouldn't be the case. I guess the biggest problem still is lack of build. Most of the rivalries are very, very rushed. And the only good story we actually have is Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan. Probably not the only good story, but the one that just came into my mind. Maybe Randy versus Bray Wyatt, but for the most part, I didn't really like it. It's just that it was really, really long. So, Lashley versus Drew, it was okay. I guess the match is pretty interesting, but the build was really, really disappointing. And that's not the only reason why this WrestleMania just doesn't feel special. It's lack of big names. Like it or not, let's admit it, these big names mean a lot to these kind of events. Sometimes just because we have so much star power, WWE can get away with lack of build. Just because the matches are that damn interesting in the first place. Brock Lesnar is not gonna be at WrestleMania. This is a big loss. People like Goldberg, Triple H, John Cena, The Undertaker, they're not gonna be at WrestleMania, and it really, really shows. Age is really not an issue in wrestling. These are some big names, and of course they're not as good as they used to be in their 30s, 20s, but there is a reason we have part-timers in the WWE. This year's WrestleMania, they didn't really need to sell a lot of tickets, so it just made sense not to try as much. Don't get me wrong, it still feels big enough, and I'm actually very excited about WrestleMania. I'm just saying it doesn't feel as special as I would like it to feel. Anyway, people, these are my thoughts. Thank you for watching the video. The great one. Peace, love, and hugs. It's been a pleasure.